I want to talk about a particularly interesting attack vector that we're seeing. Most of the time, threat actors that are phishing, that are attempting to deliver malware, or that are attempting to gain access to a user's account have been trying to do that either through a poisoned application or link that's easily scannable, or through harvesting OAuth tokens or harvesting credentials, which I won't get into right now. But the one that scares me the most is one that Brian Krebs wrote about, and it's enterprise apps that are poisoned, right? Enterprise apps with the sole intention of stealing data or doing malicious things to your organization. And so I'll kick into a real quick slide deck I have about that and try to help educate what I know about this. And so got my quick title slide, right? Poisoned enterprise Azure applications, a prescriptive fix, aka super win for Microsoft. So what are enterprise apps, right? Enterprise apps, if you go to aad.portal.azure.com as an administrator, or even as a user in some cases, you can see enterprise applications. And those are essentially extensions of applications that you have access to that extend your identity or extend access to the Graph API or email in some fashion. Android app that pulls down email is likely using an application that was authenticated by that user, by their credentials, and has been injected into this setup and is now an enterprise application that has its set of permissions. All enterprise applications have a unique application ID. By that, I mean it's unique to the application that was created by that vendor for that. And then a non-unique or unique only to this organization object ID, and then a set of permissions and users that are associated with them. What happens is, and why is this such a risk, is that threat actors send an email with a poisoned link in it that when you scan it, it's fine, right? The user clicks it. They get this application consent request. It tells them something wonderful they want to hear. They click yes, and now the threat actor has access to the Graph API. That dotted red line shows that that threat actor now pretends to be that user through that API access, and most likely quite scripted. And it sends out emails, makes mailbox rule changes, steals data, commits wire fraud, or gives the beginnings of committing wire fraud between different organizations, and other scams that I just haven't even enumerated yet. Right? And so it's a real problem. But why do we need the fix? Well, scanning links in the traditional email gateways just aren't very viable. I mean, they can certainly find heuristics about different language, and they can find certain things about the application ID down the road, but really they're just scanning and it says, yeah, that's a Microsoft app, and when I click on it, it doesn't do anything malicious in our scanning systems, right? And so as a result, they're always valid links. And furthermore, link scanning of an application, even if it had all the permissions and all the things that were listed for that application, really cannot tell intent. They can't tell what that after I have these application permissions, what I'm going to do with them. They can't determine that. So a human approval cycle is a great compliance control. It's also a great way to control data access. If we say we must review who has access to our data, it would be prudent to have an audit trail for how we allow that access. That's not simply the user gave access, right? And so threat actors are actively using that. I'll also note I'm seeing it in the last week. We've seen 2 or 3 of them. One of those actually caught through the user's MFA, obviously, because now the user is just approving the application, so MFA doesn't matter. And they were able to send out 5,000 emails. Talk about damage reputation, right? And there's not much that you could do to protect that in traditional means. One of those would always be user education, right? And teaching them not to do that. But the hard part really is that we need some form of secondary control in order to really be effective. And so in comes on the white shining horse, Microsoft. They released an article in 2019, albeit at that time, I don't think the product was really road ready. We saw a lot of problems. I could not make it to work. But we've since then revalidated it, and it's a very, very viable way to stop this particular threat. I'm going to put the link in the comments. But essentially, there's a quick walkthrough to enable a workflow that allows administrators to receive a request with some context, look at it, make an intelligent decision, hopefully, and then allow that user to carry on with their business. And hopefully, the faster you can get to that and do that, then we maintain real-time business flow for new application needs. What can users expect? Well, when they go to set up a new app, instead of the normal workflow, it's just going to say, hey, you can't approve this, but your admin can. Please put the reason here. And they'll click request approval. This is the next thing they get. The smiley face doesn't come with that, although I would like to feedback to Microsoft. I think it'd be valid. But it tells them that the admin's been notified of their request. Admin, the user's actually going to get this email. I didn't fix it. This is actually the request approval picture, but it's meant to be the request was sent to your admin. The email would actually come to the user and say, hey, this request was sent off to your admin. They'll approve it soon. And then the admins get an email that says, hey, please review this consent. Here's when it's going to expire. And I think you can set some granularity as to how that goes inside your organization. You go in, click on that link, and hopefully in a separate machine that has your admin identity that is not affiliated with your current user base as an admin, right? We maintain multiple machines, one for the admin, one for the user space. But once you go to your admin consent, you'll be able to see what was requested on the left image there and kind of the information and workflow about it. Reply URLs for the application, stuff that can help you give context as to what you should say yes or no to. And then on the right, you actually will see enterprise application, and you'll see the user's view. So once you click yes, I want to approve, you'll see the user's view under that review permissions and grant consent. And it'll tell you what the user would have seen, and you can now accept it. Once you've accepted it, it tells you have, it actually documents it, and most importantly, we have an audit trail. We know that someone looked at this and approved access and has followed any steps necessary to make sure that our data access controls, our data loss prevention policies, the things that we have in place are going to be extended to this new application. The user then gets their approval email, definitely not exactly like the one you saw earlier because I saved it over the other, but definitely the same. It's approved. Your admin has granted consent. Please carry on. They then go back to their application, click sign in, and they're now fine and ready to move on. And most importantly, new attacks will have a human delay for inspection, right? And everybody rejoices. So it's really important that we put this small delay. It slows down business a little bit for a new application, but boy, it stops that 99%, because you're going to see that that application is poisoned very apparently when you look at it from the lens that's being looked at from an administrator consent perspective. So I would encourage you all to do it. Get into administrative consent. Start thinking about the ways that we can harden our environments with just a little bit of business interruption, but a huge, huge, huge amount of protection gained. So that's it for today. I really appreciate it.